Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie here, and it's lovely to be with you here to talk today about how to create a profitable property business and sack your boss without owning a single property. And I'm calling this the Sack Your Boss Workshop because that's what it'll help you to do. So I'm here to share the secrets to a world that they don't want you to know about, especially your boss. A world where you can invest in property with very little money, a world where you can sack your boss within a year, a world where you can make over £100,000 from properties that you don't own. You're perhaps skeptical, and I certainly was. Maybe you've been told that you must have a big pot of cash to start in property. Maybe you've been told that making money from property without owning it is illegal, immoral, and just plain wrong. Or maybe you're familiar with this strategy already and you've been on a training course for 1, 2, or 3 days and you've left excited but confused and overwhelmed and without a roadmap, and most importantly, without support. And then with the demands of your work and family life, you haven't been able to make it work for you. So whatever your past situation, just know that with our proven system, you will be able to create your own profitable property business and sack your boss without owning that single property. Our system will work for you as it's worked for others before. You have a dream. You're on the path to financial freedom and a life you love. And the establishment won't tell you about this because they don't want people like us to know what is possible. So I'm here to remind you today to back yourself 100%. We did it, created a thriving rent-to-rent business, sacked our bosses, and brought in contracts worth over £1.7 million in just over 2.5 years. So it is possible, even for people like us who weren't property people, who didn't know it all. We thought it wasn't open to us. People who had a dream, people like you who will take action, who are go-getters, who are unstoppable, because yes, you can. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Today you'll discover the exact steps to creating a profitable property business without owning a property. How to set up your property business easily with little money, even if you don't have business or property experience. How to get owners to happily rent their properties to you and why they won't do it themselves. And our unique marketing methods to attract landlords and letting agents to you, even if you're shy or hate selling. And the secret to automating and outsourcing HMOs so you can do the things you love. So if you dream of financial freedom and creating the life you love, you're in the right place. And if you're watching and you already have a rent-to-rent business, there'll be some gems in here for you to help you grow your business faster. I was sitting listening to the speakers at a property networking event in Bristol. I was in the front row and my jaw was on the floor. I was amazed at what Mark and Justin were saying. They were so impressive, yet so real, so ordinary, and yet so extraordinary. As each one in a series of properties came onto a huge screen, Mark explained how many thousands of pounds their company made over each contract after all the costs has been taken out. £30,000, £50,000, £75,000, £42,000, £64,000. The list of properties seemed to go on and on. So many stories and so much money. And normally I would have listened, then claimed it to be a scam and says, oh, it's okay for people like Mark and Justin, but it's not okay for people like me. But things were not normal for me anymore. Because just a few weeks before that evening, my mum telephoned me one sunny morning. I was getting ready for work in my beautiful harbourside flat in Bristol, getting ready for the onslaught that was life at the bank. And Mum didn't call me in the mornings, and Mum rarely asks for anything. And that's why I should have taken it more seriously. She was ill, and you know when people try to sound upbeat, and I could hear through the phone that she was scared and she needed reassurance. And And I feel so ashamed because I was worried while we were on the phone. Yeah, about mum, but also I was worried about being on time for work and the project meeting and the presentation and all of these other things. And that was the day that something changed for me, because as I sat at my desk in the afternoon, it hit me like a punch in the stomach. It was the moment when I let myself see what I already knew in my heart, which was that my mum was scared and alone in Birmingham, and I still went to work in Bristol, and I should have been with my mum. And that actually nothing else was more important, not the projects or the project meetings or the deadlines or the presentations, because at the end of the day, the bank would have been absolutely fine without me, but my mum wouldn't. And I realised I was trapped and that I needed to work to fund the lifestyle that I didn't have time to enjoy. And what if mum got really ill and I wanted to go to Birmingham for a few months at a time? Or what if mum was well and I wanted to enjoy more time with her? And what hit me that day was that I wanted to be able to choose to prioritise my life to the people and to the things that mattered to me. And that's when I knew I had to make it my reality to have more flexibility and to have a passion and a vision and a proper life, not just a job. And for me, that well-paid contracting job at the bank was like a mental prison because the work wasn't meaningful to me. I like creativity, I like making a difference, I like having an impact that matters. And that didn't fit with the bank, which was where I was spending most of my life. And that day, I made making the leap a must. And I finally committed to feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because you know something, I had had this dream for many years. And I would hear stories just like Mark and Justin's. And I'd think, yeah, but, I couldn't do that. That's got to be a scam anyway. Or that's for people with lots of money. Or that's for property people. Or that's for business people. And, that's not for people like me. And I had so many reasons not to act because I was confused and afraid of failure. And at the heart of it, I just didn't believe in myself enough. And as I sat there on the 21st of March in 2016, after that gut-wrenching realization that I needed to change, I decided right then and there, in the front row, that I could and I would and I must. And I failed at so many things in the past that goodness knows where I got the strength to try, but I did. With my sister Nikki, I set up HMO Heaven, and since we officially started in June of 2016, we've sacked our bosses, built up a portfolio of rent-to-rent properties we don't own with a turnover of over £350,000 every year and over £1.75 million over our 5-year contracts. We've taken on staff and systems to outsource the day-to-day management, and we've done something I would not have believed. We bought property worth over £1 million in the last 18 months. And although you don't need to buy a single property for this, we're excited to have been able to have the opportunity to do this. And Rent to Rent gave us that opportunity. So if you're watching this thinking what I'd really like to do is to buy my own property, just know that this is possible for you. And Rent to Rent is just your first step. We have the freedom now to work in different places. Our work now has impact and meaning. It changes people's lives. And I'll talk to you more about that later on because it's so satisfying. And I feel like a totally different person. We've had to grow so much and learn so much. And every day we have new opportunities that we'd never have dreamed of, like speaking in front of hundreds of people. And running this business helps us grow and become better people each day. I get to work with my sister, which is a joy. And let me tell you, it's something we never thought we'd have. And not only do we see more of Mum now, but we know we can buy a property for her when she moves to Wales to be closer to where we live. My son works in IT and is just about to buy his own first property, and we'd love him to join us in the business at some point. I find it hard to put into words what it means to me to be able to do this for our mum and for ourselves. And the time when I struggled as a single parent on benefits feels like a lifetime ago. And I wish I had known all this sooner. Because knowing all this gave us choices and has made us different people. And we're continually growing and appreciative and excited by the future. And it's so different to how I felt just a few short years ago, frustrated and like a failure and a follower. I was sceptical when we started, confused about what we needed to do, and maybe you are too. When we started, we had to work things out for ourselves and had much trial and even more error. And we are excited now to share with you the system which will help you succeed much more quickly than even we did. And I hope it inspires you that a lot can happen for you in a very short time if you start today. So in a year's time, you'll look back on today as one of those life-changing moments. And I'm going to talk to you about how it works and show you the full 360 on some of our deals. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. What is this strategy that Stephanie's talking about? Well, in property insider circles, it's called rent to rent. You rent a property, usually for between 3 and 5 years. You pay the owner a guaranteed rent, and you usually take on paying the bills. So you rent the property out to tenants for a higher rent than you're paying the owner, and then you invest your time to create value for landlords, value for tenants, and value for yourself in the wealth that you create. Now, immediately you might be thinking, why on earth would any landlord want to do that? But let me assure you that they do. Let me show you how it works in our business on some of our deals. It's everything: the refurb, the running costs, the profits, the exact steps we took to create a profitable property business. I think you might be shocked. So this is our first property, our very first property, and as I talk to you about it, I'm going to show you some snapshots I took on my iPhone at our very first viewing. We got it through a letting agent. We viewed it with the landlord and the agent, and the landlord had advertised it for £800 a month and we offered £600. We laid it out in an offer email and demonstrated that our £600 per month was more over the 3 years than £800 for a group of contractors who would leave within a few months, possibly would need redecorating, and then it might be empty again for months. So how you make the offer is very important, and these are points that we'll return to. When this happened and we got our first deal, we were gobsmacked, as you can imagine. In fact, we weren't expecting it to happen straight away. But we weren't even in Newport at the time. I was still working in Bristol and Nikki was still living in Kent. And the landlord knew it was our first property. And newsflash, landlords do give properties to people who don't have any. And I hope that inspires you, because we got this property because A, he liked us, and B, he wanted that certainty about the rent. And you'll see as we go through this that money is not the only motivator for landlords and agents. Having peace of mind and minimizing risks are also hugely important. So we got to work and we dived into the refurb, and we didn't have a team in Newport, and we struggled to find someone who could come in with a team and turn it around really quickly. And of course, speed was important to us as we would be starting to pay the guaranteed rent, so we needed that. And it cost a lot more than we thought it was, and a lot more than we had planned for. But we got the job done and we felt amazing. It's such a good feeling, and you'll get this too. That's incredible satisfaction of a job well done, and a job that's going to have an incredible payback for you too. So the moment of truth, let's dive into the numbers. These are the actual year one figures, and these are all the outgoing costs. So you can see here what it costs really to run an HMO, and these are all typical figures apart from two that I want to call out for you. Maintenance is usually more than £5, but these are the actuals, as I say, and gardening is usually more too. So that's the total outgoing there is £964 each month. And then we've got the actual income from the tenants. When we forecast what the rent will be, it's normal practice to deduct a percentage for voids. That's the times when the rooms are empty. But because these are the actual rents, the times when the rooms are empty are already taken into account. Just wanted to explain why that's not in there. Then next we've got the Refurb Castle. Woo! We spent over £12,000 on this one. I just want to reassure you, first of all, that you don't need to spend that much money on your properties. You can use second-hand furniture, or you can DIY and do the decorating and the handy jobs yourself, or you can negotiate with the owners to pay. And if you do all that, a typical refurb can be done for much, much less. But I'm giving you the reality of what happened for us on our first one. And here is the cash flow. We make £605 every month after all of the costs have been taken out. So, you might be thinking, Stephanie, why on earth would you invest so much money in someone else's property? Is there a benefit to investing in OPP? Well, let us have a look at the numbers. So, before we refurbished this property, the landlord was asking for £800 a month in rent, and that's without any voids or anything. So it would have been actually less than £800 a month that he actually received. And now after the refurb, we received rents of £1,921 a month. So that's a massive leap. It's over double, and that was after all the costs. So then we've got the income that we would get as a letting agent. If we were just charging a 10% fee, we would get £80 a month, and we might have some costs, so it would be a little bit less than that. But following the refurb, we're making £605 a month after all our costs. That's over 7 times more. And also, if we hadn't been refurbishing this property, I doubt that the landlord would have agreed to the rent of £600 instead of £800. And that £200 a month saves us £12,000 over 5 years. But let me show you where the magic really happens and why 5 is the magic number. Because any of you with children will know that a lot can change in 5 years, yet it goes so fast. And this little boy on the right is almost recognisable to the baby on the left. And he has skills and ability and things that babies just can't do. And it's the same for you in property. If you start today, in a short time, your life will change. And in 5 years, it'll change a lot. So let me show you. But here we've got the year 1 figures. At the end of year 1, we're in minus figures. For years 2 to 5, I've increased the outgoing to allow for the extra maintenance and gardening costs I'm sure we'll have. And at the end of year 5, after all the costs, we've made over £41,000. And this landlord is so delighted with us that his original contract was due to end in June, and he signed up to 2 new contracts with us for 5 years. And the first 2 years it's the same rent, and the last 3 years it's £50 more. So I've increased the outgoings here. So over the entire 8 years, after all the costs and without increasing the rent to the tenants, which is likely that we would, we make over £72,000. Now give me a thumbs up under this video if that sounds good. And remember, this is just an average property. We made mistakes doing it. It was our first one. So the question is, how would it feel to get your first property? And how would it feel to have all of that additional income coming into your bank account? Next up, this is our third property, and it's one of our highest cash flowing properties because it's an 8-bed. And as you can see, it doesn't look too great. On the other hand, it's not totally horrendous. But I remember walking in on our first viewing and oh my god, it was hot, 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 oppressively hot. A wall of heat hit you as soon as you walked in the door, a wall of stagnant hot air. It felt like the air was thick and it smelled bad. It smelled bad, and it had aggressive notices up everywhere, and it had only one shower for all 8 bedrooms. 2 bathrooms, but only 1 shower. So it's no wonder that most of the rooms were empty. And actually, there was only 3 out of the 8 were actually let out. And all the 3 people were paying such low rents that they didn't cover the landlord's mortgage. Then there was the humongous heating bills on top. So the landlord was paying £800 to £1,000 every single month for people to live in his property, and that's not how property investment's supposed to work. He couldn't sell it as he was in negative equity, and he tried an agent, but the agent couldn't fill the rooms either, and then he was losing even more money. So it had been a source of stress and financial and emotional, and it was causing arguments. He said he'd even started arguing with himself. But the landlord replied to one of our letters, and with our simple guidelines, he actually did the decorating and replaced the flooring where needed and added a new shower in and sorted out the damp in the kitchen. And then we did the furniture and the dressing. And you know what? He was amazed. He said it really changed his life and that he hadn't realised how much this was negatively affecting him until the cloud was lifted. And he was so proud of it, he invited his whole family over. And I'll come back to that in the next video about how it's all about emotions and inner desires. It's not just about property, and how to use that secret to attract the landlords and agents who want to work with you. Because he was hugely proud of it in the end, and that's so satisfying for us as well. And he's now got over £1,000 per month going into his bank account instead of going out of it. And we have a few pounds going into ours as well, so let me talk about that. Here are the numbers, which I know that you'll be interested in. And as I say, this is an 8-bed, and this is all of our outgoing costs. These are pretty typical. I know that to anyone in London, they'll be amazed at the rents because they're much lower. But rent to rent works in high rent and low rent areas though, and people are doing this successfully in cities all over the UK, including London. The only thing I would call out here as unusual is the gas is very high because it's a huge house. And again, these are the actual year 1 figures. We expect to see these reduce a little bit because we've installed a heating thermostat. And the maintenance is a bit high too because it's an old house, but we're proactive to keep that down. So we've got just over £3,000 a month coming in from the rent. And we spent just over £10,000, and this was a conscious spend this time because we wanted new furniture to put into it, and we thought that this deal could sustain it. So the cash flow on this one, after all the refurb costs, is over £1,000, £1,222. But let me show you where the magic happens. Here's a summary of what we've just discussed. So it's just over £3,000 in from the tenants, £1,600 going out, and then a cash flow of £1,300. And after year 1, we make a nice profit of £6,942. And the total over 5 years is over £73,000. So let's just stop for a second. even without increasing our rents to the tenants, which it's likely that we would. On those 2 properties alone, we'll make over £114,000 over 5 years. That's over £22,000 a year. That's an average UK salary from managing 2 properties. That is the power of rent to rent. Yeah, my mind is still blown too. And there's more. Rent to rent can help you to build your own property portfolio too. So if you're not in a position right now to buy your own properties and you want to, Rent to Rent can help you. 18 months ago, we started buying properties in our business. Here it's the one on the right on the corner. And here are our plans to convert it into 4 self-contained flats. And the amazing thing about this one is the gross rent is over £26,000 a year, and we won't pay utilities on this one. So if we weren't in rent to rent, we'd never have seen this opportunity or known how to make it work. And these opportunities will be there for you too when you get into rent to rent, and you'll be able to do things that you didn't know that you could. And that's not all. There are more perks of rent to rent. You'll recognise this as the 8-bed that we saw before. And we're now buying this on a lease option, which means we don't need a mortgage. We're buying it on a monthly payment basis. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And most people don't succeed because they don't even try. And I'm here to remind you that yes, you can do this. Absolutely do this and sack your boss. Now get your notepads at the ready because you're really going to need them. In the next section, I'm going to hit you up with the things that we wish we had known at the start. Over the next 3 videos, I'll be sharing with you the 5 secrets that will accelerate your success. And in this video right now, we're on secret number 1, and it's how to set up your property business quickly and easily and legally with little money, even if you have no business or property experience. In 2016, when I had that moment after Mum was sick, when I'd made that decision after being inspired by Mark and Justin, I was excited, I was hopeful, and I also felt scared. I had failed so many times before, even things that others seemed to find easy had been a struggle for me. I mean, I didn't even pass my driving test until I was in my mid-30s. And when I told my partner about the rent-to-rent business, I was so excited, I was stumbling over my words, I was bright-eyed with girlish enthusiasm, and I just bubbled away like a brook. And at great length and with high energy, and when I'd finished, he just went really quiet, and then he explained to me at great length why the strategy was ill-advised and risky and foolish because, let's face it, and he wasn't wrong, you're not a business person. You don't know all the legal implications. What happens if a landlord wants the property back? What happens if a tenant doesn't pay? And you know what, this sounds like a scam. And my mum was worried for us too, that we'd fail, that we'd be hurt, and that we'd lose money. And I felt deflated because all of those things were true. And I started to ask myself, why would I think that I could do this? Where would I get such a ridiculous idea from? Because there's no evidence at all to suggest that I could do this. There's more evidence to the contrary suggests that I couldn't. But what I realised after a few days feeling downhearted is something that has drastically changed the way that I think. And that thing is that no one knows. No one knows. At the start of any new venture, no one knows. Even Mark and Justin didn't know when they started. They found out, they made mistakes, they carried on, they succeeded, and then they succeeded big. Even Richard Branson didn't know how to run a business before he ran a business. Serena Williams didn't know how to win Wimbledon until she did. And Stephanie Taylor didn't know how to drive until she did. And I would know this too, and I knew that I could find out and I could succeed at this too. And this was a game changer idea for me. It just seems so obvious now. But that simple realization helped me change my life. I realized that I've been failing to try because I didn't know, and that you don't get to know before you try. So I decided I would just take the steps, keep getting up until I got the results, and that I would learn. And the reason I tell you that story is that what I've realized is that it's not knowing what to do that prevents people from setting up the business that they say they want to, that prevents them for months or years or forever. It's not having the money, and I'll come to that in a minute. It's not having the time. It's not having the courage to back yourself 100%. It's not having the courage to go for your dreams. It's not having the courage to go beyond your comfort zone, because it's 80% in your mind. But okay, let me tell you about the other 20%, because there's so much confusion about what you need to set up your business, what insurances, what memberships, what suppliers, what's covered. And we've put it together for you in 4 phases that are really easy to do. But before we do that, I want you to comment how much you think it costs to set up your fully compliant rent-to-rent business. Put your guesses in the comments.
So here's your no confusion business set up for success. In phase 1, you decide whether you want to be a limited company or sole trader. We walk you through all these things, of course. Your business values and business name. You set up your limited company if you'd like a limited company. You open a bank account for your business. You choose your business phone number and you set up your business company email. And so that's phase 1. And then in phase 2, you work out what your service offering is. This is really going to help you in your marketing. You get your logo designed, your business card, and your website landing page, because I want it to be really quick for you just to get something online with your contact details and your business name, and then move on to the next stage. And phase 3 is all about your legal requirements. So you'll need public liability and professional indemnity insurance. You need Information Commissioner Office. You need to register with them. These are legal requirements. And you need to be a member of a redress scheme. And we use the property redress scheme. And any local landlord or licensing schemes. And we've got a list of suppliers who we use. So for client money protection, this is mandatory for letting agents from the 1st of April 2019. And as things stand, it's not required for rent to rent because it's a slightly different business model to a letting agent. So, but check your local requirements, because some local areas do have schemes which do require client money protection. So you need to check that out for yourself. And then let me just tell you, I'll just note for you that from the 1st of June, there are changes to letting agent fees, so you can't charge more than 1 week of rent as a reservation fee, except for high rent properties, which is not usually going to include us in HMO landlords. And also, you may be aware that there is a notice in consultation about Section 21s, and that's how you give notice to tenants. So there's a consultation at the moment, so we'll see what the outcome, and we'll update you if anything changes there, or when things change there, because I think they will. And the next thing is the phase 4 summary is just to complete your very simple website. And we have a checklist for the entire process. So you can keep track of what you've done. And some of our rent-to-rent stars who's already been through Kickstarter have been pleasantly surprised at just how simple the process is. And Zway says he's shocked at how simple it was to set up his business, because it was broken down to those simple, understandable steps. And Sophie says what surprised me is that if you do it in the steps, it's not actually as scary or overwhelming as she thought it would be. And I think a lot of people think that. So I think you might be surprised within the coaching. People get their businesses set up in days and weeks rather than months, years, or never.
And we include the business setup cost trackers to ensure that you don't overpay for anything. So how much did you guess that it costs to set up your business? Let me tell you, the actual amount is £572. And it is possible to do even for less than that. So I'll be interested to look at your comments and see how much you thought it would cost. Most people think it would cost more. Setting up a business is complex, but we've made it into a really simple process in our Kickstarter coaching, and we'll go through it explaining exactly what you need to do in each step, which suppliers we use and why. And you can take advantage of some great discounts and extra benefits that we've negotiated for you. And with our no confusion business setup checklist, it's easy to set up your business quickly, easily, and legally. And you'll have your business set up in days and weeks instead of months, years, or never. So I'll see you for the next video when I'll be answering the second most asked question. And I'll be explaining the secret to attracting landlords and agents to work with you, even if you hate selling or if you're shy. Now, come on over and say hello in our Rent to Rent Secrets Facebook group. Start a post and say, "Hi Steph, looking forward to part 2, and ask me any questions that you've got." I would love to see you there and meet you and get to know you. So do pop to the Rent to Rent Secrets Facebook group, and I'll see you in the group, and I'll also see you in the next video where I'll show you how to be irresistible.